Okay, so this is the Gemara. We're in Zevachim, Daf 7, Amud Aleph. So we started off at the end of 6. It says, Rav Yosef, son of Rav Shmuel, said to Rav Papa, but does Rabbi Shimon accept the opinion that the court can make a nonverbal stipulation about communal offerings? Doesn't Rav Idi bar Avin say that Rav Amram says, that Rabbi Yitzhak says, that Rabbi Yochanan says? And that's just a chain of transmission. So there we go. With regard to animals designated as daily offerings, but which in the end were not necessary for use by the public, now we're in Daf 7, according to the statement of Rabbi Shimon, they may not be redeemed as long as they are unblemished, since they retain the status of offerings. But according to the statement of the rabbis, meaning the majority, they may be redeemed even when they are unblemished, as the court initially stipulates that they are not needed. They will not assume the status of an offering. Apparently, Rabbi Shimon does not accept the notion that the court can stipulate that there be a delay in the consecration of communal offerings, and the Braita can be adduced as evidence that offerings atone for transgressions committed after the designation as offerings. And furthermore, continued Rav Yosef, son of Rav Shmuel, one can otherwise infer from the goat sacrificed on Shavuot that an offering can atone for transgressions committed after designation, as Rabbi Yirmiyah asked Rabbi Zerah, if the goats sacrificed on Shavuot were slaughtered simultaneously, and their blood was collected in 2 cups, and the blood of the first goat was sprinkled, for what sin is the second goat brought? There was no time in the interim for other transgressions to occur. So Rabbi Zerah answered, atones for any incident involving impurity that occurred between the sprinkling of the blood of that first goat and the sprinkling of the blood of this second goat. So one can infer, Rabbi Yirmiyah raised the dilemma only about whether or not an offering atones for the violation of a positive mitzvah committed after its slaughter and before the sprinkling of the blood. But with regard to the violation of a positive mitzvah that one committed after the designation of the offering before its slaughter, he did not raise the dilemma. Apparently, it was obvious to him that the offering atones for such a violation. So the Gemara rejects this proof. Perhaps Rabbi Yirmiyah's dilemma was also with regard to the violations committed after designation. He phrases his question to apply to violations committed after slaughter because he was saying, even if you say that an offering atones for violations committed after designation, does it atone for those violations committed after slaughter? It may be that neither issue was clear to him. It was stated, with regard to a thanks offering that one slaughtered for the sake of another's thanks offering. So Rabbah says that it is fit and satisfies its owner's obligation, and Rav Hista says it is unfit. So Rabbah says that it is fit because the thanks offering was slaughtered for the sake of a thanks offering, and Rav Hista says it is unfit because it must be slaughtered for the sake of his own peace offering. So Rabbah said, from where do I say that it is fit? It is as it is taught in the Braita. The verse states, in the meat of the sacrifice of his thanksgiving, peace offering, etc., on the day that he presents his offering, it shall be eaten. Leviticus 17, verses 15 and 16. So Abba Hanin said in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, the verse comes to teach that a thanks offering that one slaughtered for the sake of a peace offering is fit, whereas a peace offering that was slaughtered for the sake of a thanks offering is unfit. And what is the difference between this offering and that offering? A thanks offering is called a peace offering in this verse, but a peace offering is not called a thanks offering. So Rabbah explains the Braita indicates that a peace offering was slaughtered for the sake of a thanks offering is unfit, but a thanks offering that was slaughtered for the sake of some other thanks offering is fit. What is it not referring to the thanks offering of another in teaching that it satisfies its owner's obligation? So the Gemara responds, no, it is referring to another thanks offering of his own, which he designated to give thanks for another incident of deliverance. So the Gemara asks, but if one slaughtered his thanks offering for the sake of another's thanks offering, what is the halacha? Is it unfit? That is, I think there's a misprint here. It does not satisfy the owner's obligation. Does it not satisfy the owner's obligation? So if so, rather than teaching that a peace offering slaughtered for the sake of a thanks offering is unfit, let the Braita teach that a thanks offering that was slaughtered for the sake of another's thanks offering is unfit. And one could infer that all the more so a peace offering slaughtered for the sake of a thanks offering is unfit. The Gemara answers, it was necessary for the Braita to specify a case where a peace offering was slaughtered for the sake of his own thanks offering. Otherwise, it might enter your mind to say that since a thanks offering is called a peace offering is called a thanks offering as well, and therefore, when one slaughters a peace offering for the sake of a thanks offering, it should be fit. Therefore, the Braita teaches us that this is not the case. So Rava says, a sin offering that one slaughtered for the sake of another sin offering, he is obligated to bring is fit. but if one slaughtered it for the sake of a burnt offering, it is unfit. So what is the reason for this designation? The Merciful One states in the Torah, quote, and slaughter it for a sin offering, Leviticus 4:33. And therefore, as long as the sin offering was slaughtered for the sake of a sin offering, even another sin offering, it is fit. But if it was slaughtered for the sake of a burnt offering, it is unfit. And Rava says, a sin offering that one slaughtered for a person other than its owner, but who nevertheless was obligated to bring a sin offering, is unfit. But if one slaughtered it for one who was obligated to bring a burnt offering, it is fit. What is the reason? The Torah states, quote, and he shall be forgiven, Leviticus 4:26, indicating that it must be specifically he, the owner, who shall be forgiven and not another person. So the other person to whom this is referring with regard to whom the offering is disqualified is presumably similar to the owner in that he is also obligated to achieve atonement similar to the owners by bringing a sin offering. Whereas if the other person is obligated to bring a burnt offering and not a sin offering, his disqualification does not apply. So, and Rava says, a sin offering that one slaughtered for a person who is not obligated to bring anything is unfit, as there is no person among the Jewish people who is not obligated to bring an offering for violating a positive mitzvah. Therefore, the one for whom he slaughtered the offering is considered one who was obligated to bring a sin offering. And Rava says that a sin offering atones for those obligated to bring a burnt offering for violating a positive mitzvah. And due to an a fortiori inference, Kal v'chomer, if a sin offering atones for those who are liable for transgressing, for which one receives excision from the world to come, or karet, if he performed them intentionally, all the more so, is it not clear that it atones for those liable for failing to perform a positive mitzvah? The Gemara asks, is this to say that the violation of a positive mitzvah is of the same type as the sins atoned for by a sin offering? But doesn't Rava say that a sin offering that one slaughtered for a person other than its owner, but who was obligated to bring a sin offering, is unfit? But if it was slaughtered for a person who was obligated to bring a burnt offering, it is fit, as he is not obligated to provide a similar atonement. Given that burnt offerings atone for violations of positive mitzvah, apparently some atonement is of a different type than atonement for the transgression of prohibitions. Okay, the Gemara answers, a sin offering does not atone for violating a positive mitzvah by its essence, since prohibitions in positive mitzvot are not of the same type, but it atones for it incidentally. So, and Rava says, as for a burnt offering that one slaughtered, not for its sake, it is still prohibited to sprinkle its blood, not for its sake. So why is this so? If you wish, cite a verse, and if you wish, propose a logical argument. The Gemara elaborates, if you wish, cite a verse. That which has gone out of your lips you shall observe and do, according to which you have vowed freely to the Lord your God, even that which you promised with your mouth. Deuteronomy 23:24. The derivation from this verse was explained in 2a, Zevachim. So if you wish, propose a logical argument. Just because one deviated from protocol in its slaughter, shall he continue to deviate from protocol in the rest of the sacrificial process? This is as it was stated at the beginning of the chapter, so 2a. And Rava says, with regard to a burnt offering that is brought by the owner's heirs after his death, if one slaughtered it with a deviation from the type of offering, that is for the sake of another type of offering, it is unfit. It does not satisfy the owner's obligation, and the heirs must therefore bring another offering. But if it was slaughtered with a deviation with regard to the owner, for the sake of another person, it is fit, as the offering has no legal owner after the owner's death. And Rav Pinchas, son of Rav Ami, says that an offering has an owner after its owner's death, specifically the heir. So Rav Ashi said to Rav Pinchas, son of Rav Ami, is the master saying that an offering actually has an owner after its owner's death, and that if it was slaughtered for the sake of the wrong owner, the heir must bring another burnt offering, contrary to the opinion of Rava? Or perhaps the master is merely saying that if the heir has several violations of positive mitzvot, the offering atones for them, but still, if it was slaughtered for the sake of the wrong owner, the heir is not required to bring another offering. So Rav Pinchas said to him, I am saying that the heir is actually the owner, and if the offering was slaughtered for someone else, he must bring another offering. So, and Rava says, a burnt offering is a gift to God, and its essential purpose is not atonement. Rava supports his assertion. What are the circumstances under which a burnt offering atones for violating a positive mitzvah? If one brings a burnt offering without repentance for his transgression, he may not sacrifice it at all, as the sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination, Proverbs 21:27. And if there is repentance, isn't it taught in a Braita that if one violates a positive mitzvah and repents, God forgives him before he even moves from his place? Okay, if so, why is he required to bring an offering? Rather, conclude from it that a burnt offering is a gift that one brings in order to appease God even after he is forgiven. So the Gemara states a mnemonic for this series of statements by Rava. A sin offering atones for who? A burnt offering after a gift. So the last statement of Rava is also taught in a Braita. Rabbi Shimon said, for what purpose is a sin offering brought? The Gemara interrupts, for what purpose is it brought? Is it not brought to atone for a transgression? Rather, Rabbi Shimon clearly meant, for what reason is it brought before a burnt offering in all circumstances where both are brought? So Rabbi Shimon answered, it is comparable to an advocate who enters before the king to convince him to pardon the defendant. Once the advocate has appeased the king, the gift is brought in after him. The Mishnah teaches that all offerings are fit, even if slaughtered not for their sake, except for the paschal offering and the sin offering. The Gemara asks, from where do we derive that a paschal offering is required to be slaughtered for its sake? The Gemara answers, it is derived from a verse, as it is written, quote, observe the month of the spring, or Aviv. Observe the month of Aviv and offer the paschal offering. Deuteronomy 16, verse 1, teaching that all of the actions of the paschal offering, all of its sacrificial rites, must be performed for the sake of the paschal offering. The Gemara asks, we found a source for the halacha that deviation from the type of offering is prohibited. From where do we derive that deviation with regard to the owner is also prohibited? The Gemara answers that this is derived from a verse, as it is written, and you shall say, it is the sacrifice, zavach, of the Lord's Passover, Exodus 12:27, which indicates that the slaughter, zavicha, must be performed for the sake of the paschal offering. If the verse is not necessary in order to derive the matter of deviation from the type of offering, as that halacha is derived from Deuteronomy 16:1, apply it to the matter of deviation with regard to the owner. The Gemara asks, we found a source for the mitzvah to sacrifice the paschal offering for its sake and for the sake of its owner. From where do we derive that these intentions are indispensable and, if lacking, disqualify the offering? The Gemara answers, the verse states, and you shall sacrifice the paschal offering unto the Lord your God of the flock and the herd. Deuteronomy 16, verse 2. By repeating the mitzvah to sacrifice the paschal offering for its sake and for the sake of its owner, the Torah indicates that these two intentions are both indispensable to the sacrificial process. So Rav Safra objects to this. Does this verse, quote, and you shall sacrifice, come to teach this halacha? It is necessary for the statement of Rav Nachman, as Rav Nachman says that Rabba Bar Avu says, from where is it derived that a leftover paschal offering, an animal consecrated but not ultimately sacrificed on Erev Pesach, is sacrificed as a peace offering afterward? It is derived from that which is stated, and you shall sacrifice the Passover offering unto the Lord your God of the flock and the herd. The verse is difficult, but isn't a paschal offering brought only from the lambs and from the goats? From where is it derived that a leftover paschal offering should be sacrificed as an offering brought both from the flock and from the herd? And what is that? It is a peace offering. So, rather, Rav Safra says that the verses should be expounded as follows. The verse, quote, and you shall sacrifice the paschal offering, teaches that the statement of Rav Nachman, that a leftover paschal offering is sacrificed as peace offering. The verse, observe the month of Aviv and offer the paschal offering, Deuteronomy 16:1, teaches that there is a mitzvah to sacrifice the paschal offering without deviation from the type of offering. The verse, quote, and you shall say, it is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, Exodus 12:27, teaches that there is a mitzvah to sacrifice it without deviation with regard to the owner. The term it is in the latter verse teaches that both here and there, with regard to both the offering and the owner, proper intent is indispensable. Rav Safra continues, and we found a source for slaughter. From where do we derive that the other sacrificial rites must also be performed for the sake of the owner, or the offering is disqualified? Since the Torah revealed that this intention is indispensable to the proper slaughter of the paschal offering, it thereby revealed that it is critical to proper performance of the other rites as well. So Rav Ashi says, we do not say that since the Torah revealed that this halacha is indispensable to slaughter, it thereby revealed that it is indispensable to the other rites as well. Rather, from where do we derive that it is indispensable to the other sacrificial rites? It is derived from a verse, as it is written, this is the law of the burnt offering, and of the meal offering, and of the sin offering, and of the guilt offering, and of the consecration offering, and of the sacrifice of peace offerings, Leviticus 7:37. Indicating that all offerings must, like peace offerings, be sacrificed for their own sake. And it is taught in a Braita, in the verse, quote, in the day that he commanded the children of Israel to present their offerings, Leviticus 7:38. This word, offerings, is referring to the firstborn animal and the animal tithe and the Passover offering, which are not mentioned in the previous verse. The text juxtaposes all types of offerings mentioned in both verses with a peace offering, indicating that just as one who sacrifices a peace offering is required to do so with proper intent, both concerning deviation from the offering and concerning deviation with regard to the owner. And in addition, the halacha of proper intent is only as a mitzvah, not as an indispensable requirement. So too, in the case of any type of offering that must have proper intent, both concerning deviation from the offering and concerning deviation with regard to the owner. The halacha of proper intent is only as a mitzvah. Therefore, the mitzvah, ab initio, is derived from the halacha of a peace offering. And those verses mentioned earlier repeat the halacha to teach that it is indispensable with regard to slaughter. And the juxtaposition of the peace offering with the paschal offering indicates that a paschal offering is similar to a peace offering in another respect. Just as with regard to a peace offering, you did not distinguish between slaughter and the other rites with regard to the mitzvah ab initio of proper intent, so too with regard to the paschal offering, do not distinguish between slaughter and the other sacrificial rites with regard to the halacha. The proper intent is indispensable. The Gemara asks, rather, since the indispensability of proper intent with regard to the paschal offering is derived from its juxtaposition with the peace offering, why do I need the term "it is" to be written in Exodus 12:27? What is derived from there? The Gemara answers, this is written to teach that this requirement is indispensable only in the case of a paschal offering, not in the case of a guilt offering. As it is taught in a Braita, concerning the paschal offering, the term "it is" stated with regard to slaughter in Exodus 12:27. To teach that intent for the owner is indispensable, but concerning a guilt offering, the term "it is" stated only after the verse mentions the burning and the sacrificial portions, and since a guilt offering itself is fit, even when its portions were not burned on the altar at all, intent for the sake of the owner at this point is certainly not indispensable. The Gemara asks, from where do we derive that if a sin offering is sacrificed for the sake of the wrong type of offering or one other than its owner, it is disqualified? The Gemara answers, it is derived from this verse, as it is written, and slaughter it for a sin offering, Leviticus 4:33, teaching that the slaughter must be performed for the sake of a sin offering. The Gemara asks, we found a source with regard to slaughter. From where do we derive this with regard to collection of the blood? The Gemara answers, it is derived from this verse, as it is written, and that is the end of Daf 7.